You're listening to Who's Laughing Now on Sirius XM 168 on Paul Paduch. I am so lucky to have this great comic on the phone right now. I've been listening to a stand-up for a while now. I've seen him on TV, heard him a bunch, of course, here on Canada Laughs. I'm talking about Kyle Radke. How's it going, Kyle?
Very well. That's a great intro. I was almost like, do I have to hold while he talks to this great comedian?
Well, you know, the first time I saw you was on Comedy Now. First time I saw you was on there, and I was really taken aback because you're just so straightforward about your comedy. You're so opinionated, but it's not one of those, you know, you're not one of those comics that kind of just like preaches. You give your opinion, and it's a really funny opinion, and I really appreciate that. I think you're a really funny guy, man. Honestly.
Oh, thanks a lot. That means a lot. Yeah, it took me a while to get there. I used to be full of crap. I mean, I used to be a terrible, I think like most comics, right? I started out lying and just sort of pandering and saying whatever I thought would make audiences laugh, and then I started getting brutally heckled about 5 years in, almost to the point where I just wanted to quit and walk away.
Wow.
And I had very good friends of mine in comedy take me aside. Mike Wilmot in particular took me aside and said, just give it to him straight. Stop trying to, I don't know what you're doing up there, but you're much funnier when we're sitting having a pint. Why don't you be that guy?
And when did you come to that realization, or when did you actually get that advice? How many years in?
Maybe 6 or 7.
Wow, so it took you that long to like finally get your groove going?
Well, it took me longer. I would argue it took me until maybe about a year or two ago when I really stopped trying to impress, the powers that be that run the industry, and often those people are the least funniest people on the planet. Who don't really understand comedy very well. So there's no point trying to please those people, and I just started having much more fun trying to please the audience in front of me. It was a real easy rule to follow. Just make the folks that paid money laugh. Don't worry about the rest.
And plus, it also makes it better for yourself because it's just more enjoyable for you now. You finally have a bigger sense of satisfaction when you're actually making the crowd laugh more instead of just the suits at the back of it.
Exactly. Yeah, I've had way more fun just hanging out and watch, and then it relaxed me enough to watch some other comedians that for years. I mean, you know how it is. You don't get to work with your friends because you're sort of at the same level, and they spread you across North America. And then I'm about 16 years in now, so now all of a sudden I get to work with my friends a lot, and I'm just floored by how good some of these people are. You know, like I saw Rob Pugh a couple of months ago, and I mean, I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. I was laughing so hard. The guy's just unreal. So it just freed me up. There's no jealousy or bitterness. I'm just enjoying comedy again. It's great.
And people are going to be enjoying your comedy at the Mississauga Yuck Yucks this weekend. Don't miss Kyle Radke. He is with Terry Clement and Nigel Grinstead this weekend. Going to be a great weekend of comedy at the Mississauga Yuck Yucks. Get your tickets by going to yuckyucks.com/Mississauga. You were talking about working with great comedians. Nigel Grinstead he's only been in the game for about 3-4 years now, and he is absolutely killing it. And then you got Terry Clement. What's it like to be on a show like this?
I love working with Terry. He's one of, if you've never seen him, I mean, he's one of the weirdest, most wonderfully imaginative people I think I've ever met. So when you're on a show with a comic like that that's just so outside of the box, and if the audience is with Terry, it just fills me with an abundance of confidence because going in, this is a great crowd. This is an open-minded crowd, and you can take them wherever you want. So even I'll go off the page and do things I normally wouldn't. So Terry relaxes me. I love working with that guy. And Nigel, I've only worked with him once at the Cottage Country Fest, and I agree. Kid swings hard. So it's going to, Mississauga, for whatever reason, that club, that old club, it's been around there for, I think, about 20 years, which is about 10 years longer than any club should be in one location in Canada. But it's, for whatever reason, I love it there, and I always have a good time. It's a really nice mix of there's not a lot of white people that go there, and it's nice because I like to talk about things like race, and white people get really uptight when you're a white guy talking about race. Whereas when you get a crowd full of every which color, they're a lot more willing to go with you, and they understand you're not being racist. You're just talking about how uncomfortable the whole thing is.
It's kind of funny how almost opposite that is, isn't it? You assume that if you're around a more ethnic crowd and you're saying more ethnic jokes, people will be like, who's this white guy on stage talking about this? But it's funny how you go in front of a white crowd and these social justice warriors, as they're put, just automatically like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're white, we're white, we shouldn't be talking or listening about this.
That's exactly what happens. Like, there's sort of a feeling like at any moment, if this could turn into a Klan rally.
Yeah.
when you're a bunch of white people there. But I think it's the intention too, right? Like, I mean, I'm not mean. I don't think I'm mean in my comedy. I just talk about what I see, and I don't have that gear where I feel sorry for many people. I feel sorry for like homeless people. I don't feel sorry for anybody that has had a tough go of it because of race. I don't buy into that. I don't think in Canada, especially, it's that way anymore. I think we're pretty open-minded compared to the rest of the world. I mean, maybe not in some spots. Maybe if you go to,
yeah, in more rural areas.
Alberta.
Yeah. Let's talk about your comedy. Now, I wanted to ask you, in your comedy, you talk about your phobias, and you're afraid of flying. Are you still afraid of flying, and have you developed any new fears at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a bunch still, but I think I've really learned through doing the shows, and people will approach me afterwards, and they'll talk to me about their phobias, and they'll say, the most common thing I hear from people is, oh my God, I'm afraid of this, and they'll tell me and they just unload on me after a show about what they're afraid of. Or the second thing I hear is, I wasn't afraid of those things until I heard you go on for 30 minutes about your fears. And the more I listen to people talk, the more I've come to realize that, number one, I'm not alone, and number two, my level of anxiety about these things is nowhere compared to a lot of people. The majority of people have real anxieties to the point where it cripples their life. I mean, I'll get on a plane if you pay me enough. It's that simple. If the dollar value and the gig is good, yeah, for sure, I'll get on a plane.
See,
but I don't enjoy it.
See, my fear is deep open water. I remember as a kid watching movies like Jaws, Deep Blue Sea. What's another one? Lake Placid. I don't know if you remember that, like, cheesy crocodile movie. But man, deep water scares the shit out of me. Yeah, like you say, you just get that nervousness. I start heavy breathing, and I'm like, fuck this. I'm just gonna go back to where like it's at least knee level. Where my toes can at least touch the bottom of the water. That's so funny. It's almost like people treat you as a therapist after they see your show.
It's unbelievable, and I think the whole key to it is that the number one fear in the world is public speaking. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, which is ludicrous to me that's even above spiders and things that are actually, terrifying. So when people come up and talk to me, I think it's because I'm able to articulate it, and I've never had a fear of public speaking. I've always been a pretty articulate guy. So I think they feel comfortable, and you know how a comedy show is. People listen to you spill your guts, and my jokes they're not jokes. I'm really talking, like you said, I'm opening up, and I'm very honest. So I think that people feel like it was a two-way conversation, and that they know me, but they fail to recognize that I don't know them.
Yeah.
I didn't listen to you for the last 45 minutes. I have no idea who you are. So sometimes it can get uncomfortable, but most times it's really people are just right there, very supportive, and they're terrified. I think that anxiety and being terrified is something. Having a phobia, which isn't just being afraid, it's also being disgusted. It's any physical reaction that's not really something you should be having. It's an irrational reaction to something, and I think that's a hallmark of a good imagination. Because that's what it really is, right? Your imagination runs away with you, like with you in the dark water, which is my wife's phobia, water that you don't know what's going on underneath you. It's all in your head. Like, there's nothing down there. I get it. It's all your imagination cooking up. The merman under there is going to drag you down and do whatever he does to you, put his little mer fingers in you, or whatever is going to happen underwater. So that's I always get along with people who have phobias because there's that common ground of, oh, wow, you must have an active imagination.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's just what makes a really good comedy show, is when you could go up on stage and just relate with people, and people could automatically click with what you're talking about. Honestly, Kyle, it's going to be such a good show this weekend at the Mississauga Yuck Yucks. Like I said before, you're going to be there with Nigel Grinstead and Terry Clement. It's going to be such a good time. Go to yuckyucks.com/Mississauga to get tickets. Thanks so much for chatting with me, Kyle.
No, thanks very much.
That was Kyle Radke. It was so awesome to have him on the show. Don't miss him at the Mississauga Yuck Yucks this weekend. Let's get to some comedy from Kyle Radke here on Canada Laughs. I'm Paul Paduch. You're listening to Who's Laughing Now, and this is Kyle Radke.
Now I'm having trouble because my wife wants to have children, and I'm afraid I'm going to pass this on. And I don't want kids to be afraid. I'm afraid of everything. I don't want to have kids. I'm terrified. I'm afraid of pedophiles. Not for me, like I can handle them, but I hear kids are having a tough time, so it's worth a mention. I don't want to have a daughter. And it sounds horrible to say, but I do not want to have a daughter. It scares me so much to have. I'd rather have a boy. Number one, I was one, so I get where a young man's coming up. A daughter, I think I'd be overprotective. I'd quit comedy. If I had a daughter, I'd go into science the next day. I'm so afraid of I'd go into science and invent a chastity belt that would grow with her, made of solid gold, with my face on the front of it. With my mouth wide open, like that. And if you want to have sex with my daughter, you have to put it in my open gold mouth. And if you're not worthy, it bites your dick off. That's what I would invent if I had a daughter.